It's a Teen Talk Skating podcast where I embarrass myself. Hello, and welcome to episode number 56 of a Teen Talk Skating podcast. My name is Van Gogh, and I hope you all are doing very, very well. And you know what? I think I am for once. Like, I know I always complain in the beginning of these episodes of my life. It's just like terrible. It's a train wreck like every single week. But right now, I just feel like good. And I feel like I'm becoming a new me in like the best way possible. And I'm getting what I want on like my own terms. If that makes sense, like, do what you want. Like, do what is best for yourself. And if, you can be a little crazy too, like me. And you know what? Like, just live your life the way you want it to, how it will best serve you. Get the negative side out of your life. They should really hire me for TED Talks. But anyway, I hope y'all are doing very well and surviving as much as you can. There is so much chaos in figure skating right now that it's just like, what is going on again? There's like five different competitions I should review, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, this week is not a competition episode for once. But anyway, I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope you guys are doing well in like school and like work and like, those things that people do. Those daily I don't know. I go to school, so I hate school, but I should probably go to the program of the week. Like we already started off with a philosophical lesson and then like I started complaining and so I don't know. Let's go to the program week. And it's, more skating related. Program of the week. Okay, so for our program of the week this week, I decided to do a tribute to a skater who has recently announced her retirement, and that is from South Korea, Yaelin Kim. And this is her 2021 World Short Program. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful program set to Liebestraum by Franz Liszt. And, Liebestraum means like love dream. And I think that, that translation, like, or that word perfectly captures what this program is. It really does feel like a dream, and you feel the love that she has for skating. And it's one of those programs where I'm just like, yeah, like this is a good program. Like you just can't debate that. I feel like it's one of those programs where it's just like if you try to argue that this is a bad program, I'm like the whole figure skating community, like we're putting you in jail. Like I'm sorry, what did you say? Because this program is just so grand and so elegant. It starts off very beautifully, very slowly. Arm movements straight off the bat, just flowy, and like the elbows are just like, just so flowy and just so good. And so as she goes into her crossovers, great speed going into the first jumping pass, triple toe. She does the triple with a rip on, and the triple toe just looks like it could bounce to the moon. You know what I mean? It could go to the moon, and she lands so beautifully. And then with that nice running edge, she goes into the next crossover, and then she does a double axel out of a back counter. And as she lands the double, she puts her left hand forward. And it's just like, I love a good double axel with a nice flowy exit, with a nice arm going, reaching forward. It's just like, it's my favorite thing to see. And then, beautiful spin position. She's really good at going like accelerating these spins, and like they feel like they're not like super slow, but they're not super duper fast either. And nice camel position, nice like just good positions in the spins. And then the very last jumping pass is a triple flip, and she lands it beautifully. And then even on the exit, she does a cute little jump on the end. I was just like, this is so great. And the music is just building up towards the end into this very beautiful orchestral grand version instead of the like light piano at the beginning, and just goes so well with this program. The step sequence is beautiful. She does these little like twizzles ish kind of movements, I guess, and she's just going back and forth. When she's in front of the judges, she kind of just smiles and it's just like it's just look at me, you know what I mean? She's just kind of saying, look at me, look at how beautiful this is, and it's just like I don't know, Love Dream Liebesfilm is like the perfect way to put this program. And so I hope you go and watch it. That is Yelim Kim, her 2021 World Short Program. Go ahead and watch it. And we wish her all the best of luck with her retirement and all her future endeavors because I'm very excited to see where she will go next. Maybe she'll become a choreographer. Like, that'd be great. I would love to see that because her programs were always so beautifully choreographed. Anyway, time for the main episode. Dun dun dun. Why am I so cringe? Oh my god. That was your program of the week. Okay, everybody, I will say that I am in like a new, not a new, but like a different filming location today, and that is because there's been a bit of construction in my regular recording location, aka my bedroom desk. Some stuff is going on in my bedroom. We're fixing some things, we're replacing some things. I don't even know, but yeah, if I sound different, that's probably why. And also, I feel like everyone at this point in the entirety of America is a little bit sick, like at least a little bit. Like everyone kind of has a fever, or a flu, or like measles, or I don't even know at this point. But we are back with a video essay episode for this episode. Why did I say episode twice? I haven't done one of these in a while because there's been so many competitions recently. There's just been, we went to U.S. nationals and Europeans, and I did the preview for Four Continents, and we're finally back to like a normal like analysis commentary episode those are the kind of things I really do love to produce, and I know that you guys love to listen to those as well. So much more to come from competitions. Obviously the season is not over. Worlds will be like the worlds to end all of worlds, you know what I mean? And then world team trophy will happen, and then we'll have like a few closing things like what we learned from the season, costuming, la la la, programs, whatnot. But yeah, we're here with the video essay episode, which I feel like will serve as a nice break from all the competitions. And next week we'll be returned to a competition, but I'll go over that later. Today we have a lot less notes than normal. I usually make around 18, 19, 20-ish pages of notes. I only made 5 this time, and that's because I have a lot to rant about. And like, I feel like I can't capture all of that down in notes. Like, I have to say it just like out loud because it comes from my head. You know what I mean? Like, it comes from my head out through my mouth. Anyway, I want to talk about a topic that is incredibly broad and applicable in sports, but obviously I want to apply it particularly to skating. And that is the theme or the culture of pressure that is often put upon skaters. Now, I don't mean no pressure like, gas laws or something in my chemistry class that I still cannot remember, but the idea of pressure is that we're pushing skaters to their best. And so it it definitely covers a variety of things and leads to a results in a variety of things in skating. So today we're going to cover a few different topics because I'm very professional. We're going to cover what is the culture pressure, where the culture pressure comes from, why it occurs, and maybe why it's occurring, or at least it is more visible than a lot of other sports, the effects of pressure, which is really the big thing, and things to consider slash remember as we deal with the crazy world that is figure skating. Also, I just ate dinner, so if I burp, sorry. That was so weird. Why do I say these things? Okay, starting off with what is it? What is this culture of pressure? I truly think that this culture of pressure is a culture of looking at skaters and pushing them to do just better and better and better. Even if they, people think they're, oh no, they're at their max. They landed everything cleanly. They did everything great. People continue to push them over and over and over. There is always, something better, something more artistic to improve, something more technical to improve. I don't like that one spin. Um, and I'm not saying pressure is necessarily a bad thing. Some people in the beginning stages, pressure is good. Pressure pushes you to do better at competitions. But I think that pressure really does quickly become toxic because you know, we often push our words and our comments in the figure skating community to the edge almost. Like we get a little bit too intense with them. And I think that's when pressure becomes a really dangerous thing to look at and becomes a really toxic thing and a toxic environment to not only the skaters themselves, but to the whole sport of figure skating and the fans themselves. And I feel like it really does kind of taint the reputation that the sport has as like, it's a lovey-dovey, like everyone loves it, it's light, it's petite. No, this is a hard sport. And I don't think it's, that kind of image that we're creating is helped at all by this huge culture of toxic pressure that we're putting upon figure skaters. So like I said, lots of negative comments create like even more pressure. Obviously, there's a huge difference between a positive comment, like, go, 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 Amber Glenn, like, oh my gosh, I hope Jason Brown wins, things like that. That's a nice positive comment. But there's these, like, and those add a little, positive pressure. Oh, there's people rooting for me. But there's a definitely negative side. And, like, I always see, not always, I'm not blaming anybody, but, if you scroll down, like, through the Reddit threads and at the very bottom, it's the downvoted ones, you see, like, oh, I hope so and so will fall slash make a mistake. I hope they, fall in their step sequence. Oh, their edges are so weak. Oh my god, their spin. Oh, their jumps are so under rotated. How are they even competing at Europeans? How are they even competing at Worlds? Like, oh my gosh, their federation, la 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 la. So, we hear that a lot containing that or pertaining to that particular skater. But I also see quite a lot of like skater comparisons, right? We say, so and so is way better than this other skater. They just, this other skater is so bad. They don't have the right jumps. They're never gonna get the GOE. The judges hate them. Like I hate them. Like, it's just negative culture that really just does like nothing to serve this sport at all except just create hate, and hate is not a good thing, obviously. And so that's a really common thing I feel like. Negative comments is the main thing, and then like those like possibilities, I don't wanna say possibilities, but a lot of people will create, like, what ifs in skating. They're like, "Well, like, what if so and so fell?" Like, I want them to fall. Like, they're not saying I want them to fall, but, like, what if so and so fell so somebody else could win? You know what I mean? Like, there's these, like, sometimes it isn't so overt and obvious, but it kinda is a little hidden behind, like, "I hate this skater, but I'm not gonna flat out say that. I'm gonna, like, be a little hidden." But, a lot of things can be taken, like, the wrong way, and I definitely do think that does happen in a lot of figure skating communities, especially I've seen it on Reddit, Twitter, etcetera. Twitter, X, what I don't know. And so I do think that for my next point, I do think that pressure leads to some disappointment, when skaters don't live up to people's expectations. Um, you know, when when skaters have this like pressure put on them, and this does apply to like the positive pressure, like, yeah, I hope so and so wins, or I hope, so and so lands all their jumps cleanly. There is this kind of disappointment when skaters don't do that. Skaters don't win. Skaters don't skate cleanly. And, it is kind of like, you know, not that those fans give up on those skaters at all, but it is almost like, oh, like that you could have done better. Like we know that you could have done better. And yeah, that's true. They could have skated cleaner, but I often do think that they're like it does come off a little negative for sure. There's this pressure that like, hey, like you don't want to disappoint the people that are rooting for you, or even like you don't want to prove the naysayers right, right? You don't want to prove the people who say like so and so should lose. You don't want to prove them right and lose, and you want to do good. You want to do good not for you, like not just for yourself, but also for the people who are watching you, the millions of people that could be watching you, and like that does lead a lot to like disappointment from the audience, and then from the fans, and then from the skaters themselves when they don't live up to what people expected. I do think that is negative too. It does go push them the wrong way. And yeah. And the way I thought about this, if anyone knows that one, if anyone's been on the internet, this is how you know I've been on the internet so much. But if anyone knows that one Tyra Banks meme from America's Next Top Model, it's what is it? I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. That's basically kind of how I think about like this whole situation about fans putting pressure on skaters. Like I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. And skaters hear that. They don't hear that, but they see that. They see the people rooting for them physically and also just like online spaces. And so these things are that expected of skaters. It's like you have to fulfill them or you're gonna get kicked to the curb, like you're done with. And that kind of culture is extremely negative, obviously, and so, I do think that it does lead to a lot of, like, dissatisfaction with the sport, I guess, both again for the skaters and for the audience. And haters often come on. They'll be like, "Oh, I knew it." It's those like people who are like you hate or like, "I told you so." Like, "I knew it. I told you so." Like, "You're a terrible skater." Like, "We knew that you were gonna win." Or things like, "I hoped you were gonna lose, and then you did lose." It just shows like how bad of a skater you are. Like you can't land anything cleanly. Like you can't even do a one clean free skate. La 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 la. Haters come on, right? Haters definitely do come on and be like, "I was right. Told you so. Told everyone. They didn't believe me. I'm a ha ha ha. I'm right." Awful people. But there are sympathizers. I will say there's good people in this community for sure. Who will be like, "No, well, maybe next time," or they just got to go back to training. And like, yeah, yeah. Okay, so that just kind of explains what this culture pressure is. It's definitely not like a one size fits all thing, by the way. I think every skater, obviously every person, and therefore every skater experiences pressure in a different way. And maybe it is a lot. Some of it is about mindset, for sure. Some people might react to pressure in a different way than other skaters or other people. Maybe some people really like to live up to the pressure, but I think in general, pressure often leads to too much hate, and hate is never a good thing, in my opinion. Where does it come from? Okay, where does it come from? And I will say this is a very broad question. Um, I will say the main thing is media. The media, in terms of like the news and like the articles and the advertisements, is a big thing. And um, what was the other thing? Podcasts, like this one. Podcast and different, just YouTube and different like media. Um there are always so many headlines, interviews, etc., that are targeted towards specific skaters. You'll see like a lot of articles that are like preview articles about like competitions that are coming up. It's like Melina expected to, retake national title, or something about Amber Glenn undefeated so far. Can she do this or not? And I'm using a lot of examples from US skaters, but those are just the ones that first come to mind in terms of like what are kind of the things I kind of see. Or, and we see this not only in like American media, but also like international media for sure. Advertisements, I feel like, is a big thing too, because oftentimes advertisements are everywhere, right? Advertisements are everywhere. And especially if you're involved in like skating, like Instagram, I would say, you see a lot of skaters like, or a lot of news outlets put out like advertisements for skaters in terms of like promotional like posts and like promotional stories and things like that, saying like, "Oh, what a beautiful jump," or kind of like a giant like glorified poster of a skater, things like that. I definitely do think that that does kind of add to it as well, like seeing your face everywhere. It does affect you. And then I will say sometimes interviewers get a little bit too far, right? Like um, sometimes interviewers get a little bit too far, especially during press conferences. Oh my gosh, sometimes some of the reporters at press conferences get a little bit like too far, a little bit like off topic, a little bit like why'd you ask that? I remember at the U.S. Nationals this year, I think after the women's short program or something, there was an interview that asked like Brady Snell about how she felt competing with such a young Alyssa Liu or something like that, compared to like her, large experience or something. I'm just like, sometimes it's just like that's a little bit too much. Like, can you just focus on the skier themselves and not about comparing them to other skiers? Like that was definitely a big moment. I think a lot of people were like, I don't think they should have asked that question because Alyssa Liu is her own skater, Brady Snell is her own skater. So why are they asking Brady Snell about what she kind of thinks like her chances against Alyssa Liu? Basically, it's like that's a lot of pressure to be. It's not pressure so obviously, but that's kind of like unconscious on adding on pressure in terms of like, yeah, like do you think you're gonna lose or win? Like that's basically what they're asking sometimes. To me, that's what it feels like. And so that's definitely the media side of it. Social media, if we could blame half the problems on in the world on social media, I think we would. Social media is often used as a place of hate. Not to say that it can't be a place of love, and I'll talk about that later. Social media is often a big, 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 big place of hate for sure. And online spaces in general, forums, any threads, I feel like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Instagram Reels, anything like that. Reddit obviously is sometimes a place for hate, unfortunately. And I've discussed this before in my episode about social media, which I was one of the last video essays I did. It was back in, gosh, I think it was back in September of 2024. I did that episode about social media. And so, if you want more information about that, I definitely recommend checking out that episode. That episode did really well, so thanks for that, guys. But again, yeah, social media is a big contributor for pressure, and obviously, I do think one of the main things is that social media is very unfiltered, or it isn't necessarily a professional source, right? Because news outlets, etc., they hire people to write articles, etc. Articles, newspapers, whatnot. But social media is like anybody can make an Instagram account, anybody can make a TikTok account, anybody can make a Reddit account, and therefore anybody can post kind of anything and maybe not even get in trouble for it. That's the main thing, right? Because people don't feel like they could get in trouble as much on social media as they could by committing like a real crime in real life. But because social media is an online space, it's hidden, it's more anonymous, etc. And what the heck? That's a motorcycle. I'm sorry for everybody. That's a motorcycle. But anyway, the media plus social media plus wherever else pressure can come from, I do think that it ultimately results not in external pressure is like the pressure from other people, internal pressure. I do think more external pressure equals more internal pressure. Look at my mathematician skills. Science, I don't know. But when you are pressured from other people, I definitely do think that does create pressure within yourself. I've seen a lot of interviews where, skaters will say, I didn't want to let the fans down. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to let myself down and all my hard training and my coach and my family and things like that. Like, but I think the main emphasis is like I didn't want to let myself down. Because I feel like oftentimes figure skating becomes not like a fun sport for people anymore. For skaters, sometimes it often becomes not a fun thing that they, just picked up when they were kids and they're still doing it and they got really good. It often becomes like, oh, like this is job now. This is job. This is something very serious. I got to take seriously. And so if I don't do well, you know, that is not a good thing. And so that does add a lot of pressure from the self because there is this very strong pressure from other people. Um, Especially comparison wise. I feel like comparisons are the biggest thing creating pressure these days because people will constantly compare to other people competing with you or even like past skaters in the past. Oh, like, why aren't you as good as Michelle Kwan? Things like that. And, I think comparing yourself to other people is never a good thing. But when the media does that, I think it quickly becomes easy for you to do that for yourself when you see other people literally talking about you and comparing you and doing all these things that are so negative to you. Okay, why does it occur? So we talked about what it is and where it comes from, but why does it occur? I will say I do think a lot of this has to do with the fact that skating is a lonely sport. And what I mean by lonely sport is that, like I've said a lot of times before in a lot of these kind of video essay episodes, when you are on the ice, you're by yourself. If you're a single skater, and then if you're in pairs or ice dance, you are with another person. Um, you're with another person, but that's two people facing millions around the world watching you, and all those eyes are on you, and so it's not a team sport like, football. There's like 20 players on the field, like, you know what I mean? Like there's like 20 players on the field at the same time. So when you skate, you're not only skating for, I guess, yourself, right? But you're skating for your whole country. And I think that does add a lot of burden. Compared to another sport like football or basketball or baseball, there is this I guess, idea of like communal group team effort. But when you are a skater on the ice by yourself, it is kind of you. You are responsible for you. And if you don't do well, well, then that must somehow be your fault, right? And so that kind of mentality that I think honestly like the skating community sometimes has is really negative to skaters and really negative to how they view themselves and how they skate and how they think. And all that burden of trying to be that all that burden of being, one of maybe two or three or even the only person representing your whole country is a lot of pressure. People are like expecting you to do well. And I do think that even worsens when you consider like very big figure skating countries that, are super into figure skating, that are super invested in figure skating. And what happens is that they skate or they don't skate. They put that pressure on you because people from home are watching for sure. And so yeah, all that pressure from representing your entire country does add up to your internal pressure and the pressure from people online from around the world, etc. For sure. I will say that's exacerbated by kind of the idea that we have or just how the system works in figure skating that you got to earn world team spots or Olympic spots or spots for Europeans next year. you know, as we're coming up on this upcoming Worlds that will happen in a month from now, which is crazy. As we're coming up on this next World, it is obviously the Worlds that helps people qualify for the Olympics, and adding that extra pressure on it, like adding that extra pressure on of having to qualify for the Olympics is obviously a very big deal. And I do think that does add to the pressure because you're not only representing your country at this Worlds, but you're earning those spots for the Olympics next year. And that adds extra pressure because not only are you focused on yourself and skating well for yourself, but if you don't do well and get a great results, then your country might not have two or three spots next year or at Worlds or at the Olympics. Um, and you're obviously not you're trying to secure your country spot, but you're also trying to convince the federation that you're skiing for that you deserve a spot there. And that's like a dual like pressure, like conflict, like I don't even know. And that is like so toxic sometimes, I think, to think about is like how are you supposed to manage all that? Because how are you like just how, and so, yeah, that extra pressure of having to get spots is definitely a main factor as well. I feel like, we see those interviews where skiers are like, "Well, I want to focus on getting, two spots for, Team Korea, Team Canada next year for the women's event or the men's event." That definitely does add on a lot of pressure. And then I also want to say that skating is a very presentable sport, right? Like, it isn't, considered very proper in skating to be super sweaty or, like falling on the ground and like dying and just, it's not a great thing. It's looked down upon basically because skating is, stereotypically a very like graceful, I look good, everything's great right now, not even breaking a sweat. It's supposed to look easy. It is not supposed to look hard. At least that's, what it is like perceived to be. It's not supposed to look hard. It's supposed to look good. That's the main thing. It's supposed to look good. And so a lot of skaters do have a lot of pressure to look good, a lot of pressure to do good. Um, the definitely a big thing is like that doing good part, that pressure to do good because you want to be able to present yourself well to the world. Again, because you're in a lonely sport and you're the only person on the ice, like you have to be able to convince not only judges, the audience, the entire world that I'm a good skater, I'm a good presentable skater, I'm great. I tick off all the boxes. I'm, everything you would want in a good skater. Good speed, good control, good what else is there? My computer. Good like quality, good flow, etc. And so, yeah, you want to look good. You want to do good. You want to look good. You want to be good. Everything. Especially since I do think skaters are often treated as celebrities as well because figure skating seems to be a very glam sport. It isn't a very. It's not a brutal like concussion, and it's concussions that happen. What am I saying? It's not a very brutal sport in the sense of like fighting, conflict. There's no fighting on the ice, okay? There's no fighting on the ice. It's just people skating their hearts out for sure. And so when it is a very glam sport that is very, very like look good, be good, like don't be too angry, don't be too sad, just be good. And that adds pressure on because you want to be able to present yourself well. And, compared to other sports, like it isn't artistically based in a lot of other sports. And so you don't have that pressure. Like, yeah, I can sweat. It's fine. I smell super bad. It's fine. No, in skating, you are kind of put on this like perfect pedestal. And if you are not going to be on that pedestal, if you're even like a smidgen, little bit just like off on that pedestal, you're getting kicked off. It does feel like that. It's very cutthroat in that sense. But otherwise, you have to be pristine and perfect and crystalled and polished and everything, for sure. Okay, I think the main big segment for this is the effects of pressure on skaters. The first one I want to say is motivation issues slash burnout. Like I said earlier, skating stops being fun. Skating starts becoming like a real passion when people like just hammer you down, basically. People slam you for being bad at it. Like it stops becoming fun because, a lot of skiers are not forced into skating at all. A lot of skiers, choose to do skating when they're young and they just keep on continuing and learning, and it it stops being fun for sure because you see all these negative comments everywhere. Like, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I pictured. This is not what I imagined when I thought I'd become a professional figure skater. I thought I'd have so many fans, etc. But that is not kind of the reality that we're presenting a lot. I will say I wanted to point out one of the examples that I have is Alyssa Liu. When Alyssa Liu was 16, she went to Worlds. She won the bronze medal in 2022, and then she decided to retire. And I I think that like a lot of people were very shocked by her retirement at such a young age. But, I remember kind of the way she wrote about it, that way she kind of like expressed her feelings about leaving skating were kind of indicative of what had kind of happened, and that skating had not really become fun for her anymore. And we've learned in recent interviews with Alyssa Lee, who has obviously, luckily, fortunately, come back on her own terms, that she kind of lost the passion for skating, and then she kind of regained it after losing it. She regained it after stepping away from the sport for 3 seasons, kind of, basically 3 seasons. Yeah, 2 seasons, 2 seasons. Yeah. And so, sorry, that was my foot. So Alyssa Liu, a good example of kind of that burnout that happens. When she was 13, when she was 14, she won the U.S. national title, and I do think a lot of people kind of had, again, all those spotlights on her, all those eyes on her, becoming the next big thing, the next Olympic champion, representing Team USA, things like that. And I do think that did add up to a lot, and I'm assuming, I guess, I don't want to speculate or anything, but I'm assuming that that is kind of the culture that she was kind of hinting towards, that led to her not really liking skating a whole lot anymore and then retiring at age 16. But luckily, she is back on her own terms now. That's what she's kind of said in interviews, that she's back because of her own passion and because she enjoys skating for who she is and who she can be on the ice, for sure. Okay, I will say stress is a huge issue in skating, and mental health issues. If you don't know, I feel like skating is really that sport that skaters often have mental health issues. We've seen a lot of skaters deal with anxiety or depression or even eating disorders like anorexia or bulimia. And so that is really rampant in skating, and that definitely has to do with the culture pressure, right? When you are like being watched, not being watched, but when you are being watched every time you're in competition, every time is a chance to prove yourself, and maybe you don't do as well as you would hope, people start being haters, and that does lead to a lot of shame and like lots of anxiety and lots of just like negative emotion that just is not positive at all. Like, that is not what we want to see in this sport. Like, that is not what we want to see. And a few skaters have discussed like avoiding the social media side or like the media side of skating because of this. Um, I was trying to think of examples, but like I can't remember. I think Alyssa Liu like stepped away from social media for a while, or she didn't like use it that too much too often for a while. Gosh, I'm trying to think of other scares. Because Amber Glenn, I think, said something about social media being there or like kind of separating herself from it for sure, I think. So yeah, a lot of skiers, or at least some skiers, have kind of talked about avoiding the social media side because of all the hate and the pressure and just the negativity that just sometimes it does completely outrun the positivity that we have in this sport. And so yeah, but all that pressure leads to wanting to train harder, wanting to compete better in a sport that is already, again, so expensive and so difficult. This sport is already like breaking people's banks, and we're still saying we want more. We want more from you. I do think sometimes people just don't consider a skier's like background or like, how their life might actually be. It's just like this is not a fantasy league. I'm sorry. Like this is not the fantasy league of figure skating. If you want to go do that, you can go on skating scores or a skating scores. Or I don't know. So you wanna talk about skating? Or so you want to watch skating? I forgot what website does the fantasy league. Anyway, off topic. But these are real people, I think. These are real people. Just saying. And so those real people are pressured to just train harder, compete better. And, maybe even that leads to some other issues with injury that we've seen, right? Because training harder is not necessarily training better, for sure. I feel like competing better, maybe oh, I gotta go to more competition. I gotta bring home more gold medals. I gotta go bring home more money, things like that, prize money to show people that I am such a good skater when these people are already superhumans. Like we don't need to belittle them anymore. I think that's the main thing. We don't need to belittle them any further, for sure. And so, especially the money thing, I feel like, oh my god, skaters are always wanting to like improve the results, obviously. And so I wonder sometimes like they are like, do they kind of like lose it in a sense of like not wanting to win for their fans, but almost wanting to win, or not wanting, what am I trying to say? Sometimes I feel like skaters, like I said before, skating starts becoming fun, so you stop kind of doing it for yourself, and you start kind of doing it mostly or even purely for other people's satisfaction and other people's entertainment and happiness. Obviously that leads to, spending more money, gotta get more ice time, gotta get better coaches, things like that, better programs, better choreography, better costuming, things like that. Like just have this negative culture in skating of putting pressure on people who don't need the pressure, for sure. There's already enough pressure, for sure. Okay. I will say some things to consider slash remember. As number one, I've said this before, I think in the social media episode as well, if you want to check that out, that skaters are humans. Skaters are humans. Like, can we get a clap, a round of applause for that? Skaters are humans. Skaters are humans. The world can literally be so negative, and it's honestly like appalling at like the behavior of some people, not even like in public but online as well. Some people just like cannot like just chill, you know what I mean? Just chill. Take a chill pill, okay? Like take a chill pill. But some people just cannot. Some people like do not know what relaxation means. Some people just like cannot. Um and this sport is already so difficult that kind of idea of pressure really, I think, does add to that. And it just creates more and more and more and more and more and more just negativity. And, it's just like, why? Like, why you gotta be like that? Don't be a hater. Like, come on, people. But yeah, some people just don't know how to behave online and forget that there is a person behind that skater that is on skates on the ice. That's a real person. That is not a robot. It is not AI. It ain't ChatGPT taking over the world. That's a real person. Amber Glenn is a real person. Ilya Molina is a real person. Kari Sakamoto is a real person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Delato, Delato, Stel Delato? Slad Stiletto and Deschamps, they are real people. Chalk and Bates, they are real people. Like, you do not need to hate on them. They are real people. And, I guess I should say like the golden rule or whatever, but like do unto others what you would want done unto yourself. Does that make sense? And people definitely forget that because people are just dang awful. Okay, so I will say do what you can to downvote or comment against negativity. I see this a lot on Reddit because people on Reddit are sometimes just amazing people. When someone says something negative, people will just like comment like, "What do you mean? Like you're wrong. Like you can't say that. That's like awful to say. What are you talking about? Like, come on, dude. You know what I mean?" So like downvote and comment against and be like, "Hey, like what are you trying to say about this scare? Like don't be so negative and don't be such a critic, okay? Don't be such a critic. But I will say it is not a good idea to fight fire with fire, I guess, and just say like, you know, like so and so said something bad, so I'm gonna judge them as a person. You're a terrible person. No, we don't do that in skating. We love people in skating, and we don't belittle them for saying something negative. We make them understand what they did wrong. Okay, we're not angry. We're disappointed. That's who we are in this sport. And something I've always stressed is that this sport is supposed to be fun to watch for both the athletes and the audience. So don't be that person that does not make it fun. Don't be that person who kind of spoils the fun for everybody, for sure. Because again, just so much hate already that like, what's the point of like making it worse? Um, it's supposed to be fun for us to watch as audience, right? And I do think that, maybe because we want to have fun sometimes and we want to see our skaters win, that does encourage us to like push them a little bit. Push them a little bit. And the good, positive encouraging is great. But to the point where you're hoping other people will fall because you want your favorite to win is a little tragic. And like tells you that you probably like, come on, like don't be that person. Just don't. And it is supposed to be fun for the athletes. These athletes don't they train their life. They spend hours and hours of their day skating because in the beginning they found it fun. And don't be that person that changes that for them. That changes that from being fun to being like, this is just my job. I hate my job and I just skate because I need to make other people happy. No. Skating is that sport where you can be who you want to be on the ice, and when you ruin that for someone else, you suck the happiness out of their job, their career. And yeah, don't be that person. Spread the love because we are so in love with skating. That's such a bad joke. Oh my gosh. Um, but don't be that person. I will say that, there's already so many other issues in skiing to cover, the money and the training and the toxic environments, everything. But the idea of pressure, I do think is like the main thing because you see it everywhere. You see it every day. There is never a post on Reddit or a day that goes without a post on Reddit kind of like saying something about a skater, cheering on about a skater. That is the sport. And that it is fair. It isn't like I'm not trying to say that we need to stop talking about skaters. Like we need to respect them at all because in the end they are athletes that we want to cheer for and encourage. But that does not mean that they're not also humans that we can just disparage and criticize all day. Definitely, I don't want to say that talking about skating is a bad thing. I'm not saying that encouraging your favorite skaters is a good thing, but there's a fine line between encouraging your skaters and just bringing them down or bringing other skaters down in return. Um, and that's just the way life is. And that's just like, I do think that is kind of one of the main things, not to rant more, I'm sorry. But one of those things that makes skating so applicable to just life is that we see so many things in skating happen that would happen in life too. We see the hate, we see the love, we see the positivity, we see the negativity. And you see that a lot in life too. And I feel like in a sense, skating's taught me to be kind of a stronger person, not gonna lie. Like deal with the hate. Let's like deal with it. And yeah. And I just like, I don't know, I just want to smile. Um yeah, this sport can bring out so much joy, and let's focus on the joy because 2025 has been probably a crazy year for everybody so far. And, skating is it's always going to be chaotic, right? I joke that, maybe one day I'll take a vacation. No, skating is always going to be a chaotic sport. And the hate the hate just is awful. The hate, who cares about the hate? Who cares? Just stop hating. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Teen Talk Skating Podcast. I know I ranted for very long. It's actually shorter than most of my episodes, which is, better than better than usual. But thank you for listening to me rant for so long. Next week's episode will definitely be a review of four continents that it's happening right now as I speak, I think. Maybe, perhaps, I don't know. It's definitely happening right now, or it is happening right now, but I don't know if an event is going on right now. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, next week will be a review of four continents, and then we will definitely do some things as we get ready for Worlds. Definitely we'll do a Worlds preview episode, probably the week before Worlds. And then in between the four continents and worlds, I will probably discuss kind of like a couple other things. But I hope that there's at least one more video essay episode before worlds. I will probably plan out what I want to talk about and everything. But yeah. Yeah, thank you for listening to this episode with Teen Talk Skating Podcast. My name's Van Gogh. I hope you enjoyed my 40-ish minute rant about how the culture pressure in skating is created and why it's bad and what it leads to and things to just remember to love. Spread love, not hate, for sure. Because love spreads, or hold on, I was watching this Norwegian series. Hate spreads, but fortunately, so does love. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.